Welcome to Community Connections with Children's Services Council. I'm your host, Sean Boyle, and with me is
Ashley Mock.
And welcome to the 1-hour commercial-free radio program that's all about connecting you, the listeners, and today, the viewers, about what resources and things that are happening in St. Lucie County. And if you're a long-time listener to the show, you've got this memorized. If you're a first-time listener, why, oh, why did that great song stop playing and they turned it over to us? The Children's Services Council, just as a quick reminder, we are an independent special district established by the voters in 1990 to provide funding to children's programs. We currently fund 53 programs that reached over 34,000 children last year. And those programs affect 5 general areas, if you will. And those areas are: 1, making sure every baby is a healthy baby. For example, in St. Lucie County, when a mother gives birth at the hospital, she spends 48 hours, maybe longer if there's a cesarean or complications, and then she returns home with the greatest responsibility she's ever going to have. Our program provides a nurse home visit. A registered nurse comes to their home and checks on the health of the mother, the baby, the stress level of the father. A cameraman knows what I'm talking about. To make sure that everything is going well and to give that family confidence. And then we don't stop there. We have a program called the BRAIN program, which we were talking about earlier today with the people in the studio, that comes out at 3 months and talks to the family about brain development, what they can do to stimulate brain development, and talk to them about the developmental stages of their child. So that's one priority. I'm not going through all 53 programs, folks, don't worry. Second priority is stopping child abuse before it happens. That's programs such as the Castle Safe Families program, or Hibiscus's Supporting Families in Crisis, which comes out, provides parenting support and help both at crisis and just in general, so that the parents can understand better disciplining techniques and eliminate crisis and stress in the household that causes child abuse or can lead to child abuse. Third priority is keeping kids off the street, probably one of my favorite ones. That's investing in programs like the Avenue D Choir, which gets kids off the streets, gets them engaged in positive activities such as choir or the Boys and Girls Club or Future Generations or Frontline or Save Our Children. And the common denominator among all of them is they all have an academic focus. So we want to make sure our kids not only are off the streets, but are doing well in school and moving down the path towards our fourth priority, which is keeping kids in school by making sure they're successful, giving them the building blocks to be successful both at an early age as well as they progress through the school system. And our fifth priority is keeping kids off drugs, alcohol, and eliminating other risky behaviors. I said a lot.
You did.
Your turn to speak.
I thought maybe you were going to go through all of them because you named a bunch of the programs.
I was on a roll and I could read the room though, and they're like, don't do it.
But we do have a couple of ways that people can get information about all 53 of those programs, and one of those ways is through our Family Guide. We have just updated the Family Guide, so on our website you can find the latest version of it. The Family Guide gives you kind of a quick synopsis of what each one of those programs does, as well as contact information for the program so you can get in touch with them. We have printed versions of the Family Guide available as well that we can drop off to your place of business, your office, your church, wherever you think families might be able to pick these up to get the information. It is a really great resource. We always say that there might not be a program in there that you need today. There might not be a program that you ever need to utilize in there, but chances are that someone that you know or that you work with or that you attend church with has taken advantage of one of the programs that we support in the community. We also have a mobile app that you can download and basically get all of the information that is available in the Family Guide as well. The app is free on both Android and in the Apple Store, so you can just search. If you're on Apple, it's easier to search CSCSLC. If you're on Android, it's easier to search Children's Services Council, and you'll be able to connect directly to the app, download it for free, and get that one-touch access to all of the program information. So we like to give you lots of options.
Yeah, we like to throw a lot at the beginning of the show. And just so you know, our radio listeners, the directory of programs, 53 programs, it's not 30 pages. It's only 2 pages.
That's right. That's a good point.
You might have to get out your reading glasses to read it, but it is only 2 pages, and all 53 programs are listed on there. And I will also say that you mentioned the app.
I did.
And I also want to mention that this show is your show. So if you're tuning in, listening, if you have a question for either us or the guest, we take questions and comments via text.
We're very sophisticated.
Partly because the phone mechanism is not here, but also because it's easier. So if you have a question during the hour that we're on the air, just simply text us at 772-237 772-237-1130. Again, 772-237-1130. If you're watching us on TV, you can certainly text us a question, but it's not live. So, but we will get back to you. But also, did you mention Facebook?
I did not. I'll do that.
Be my guest.
Facebook is a great tool that we have been able to utilize that's really kind of been a great way for us to connect with the community. We get a lot of questions through Facebook. We share a lot of information through Facebook. We always post who the guest is going to be on our Tuesday morning radio show. So if you are interested in tuning in, what you're going to be learning that day, you can always check us out there. Find us on Facebook. All you have to do is type in Children's Services Council of St. Lucie County. There are other children's services councils around the state, and we like them, but we like us better.
That's
that
fair
made
to say.
sense, right?
Yeah.
So we would love for you to come and follow us on Facebook. We do share a lot of information there, not just about the radio show, but about events that are coming up in the community, things that our programs are doing, and just things we feel are relevant to families.
And I know we're mowing right down to the intro here because we got two great guests. But before we do that, before we get to our guests who are waiting patiently, you mentioned upcoming events.
I did.
And we've been talking a lot about what the library is offering because they do a lot for families that a lot of people don't know about, and we need to get that attendance up.
Yes, and
they're free.
They are
Our favorite
free.
word.
Our favorite word. I actually talked with a couple of the library staff just last week, and they have been really encouraged by the amount of people that are showing up to the event. So I really hope that you guys are taking advantage of the information that we are sharing on the website, on Facebook, on the radio show about these events that are happening, because they really are awesome events and great things for families to take advantage of. This coming Saturday at both the Hurston Branch Library and the Morningside Library, those two locations are hosting game day Saturday at 2 p.m. So you can come in. They have a large variety of board games, card games, puzzle games, all kinds of things that you can sit and play with your kids. So it's really good kind of focused quality time to spend as a family. So again, that's this Saturday, March 7th, from at 2 p.m. and game day at both the Hurston Branch Library on Avenue D and the Morningside Library.
And they're going old school with game day. It's
They
not
are.
like video game day.
No, not
where
video
there's no
game
interaction,
day.
just staring at the screen.
It
You
is
actually have to
board
interact.
game day, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I will. I know that we have been talking about these events on the radio show, but we also are working on getting these events loaded onto our community calendar. So if you can't make it this Saturday, but you want to see what's happening next Saturday, you can find that out on our community calendar at cscslc.org.
And just to prove that we're an interactive show,
You got a text?
I didn't get a text. I got a Facebook message saying, repeat the text number again. You're going too fast. So, again, if you're interested, you have a question, text us at 772-237-1130.
That's instant feedback. I like it.
I know, 772-237-1130. And thanks for that feedback. We appreciate that.
So just one more event that I want to mention before I know we get to our first guest. We talk a lot about parenting classes, and we talk a lot about being out in the community and people saying that they want parenting classes. We have a free class that is coming up. It is scheduled to begin Monday, March 16th from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the WIC office on Avenue C. Now, this class is special because this class is going to be conducted in Spanish. So if you know someone that might be interested in attending that class, we have a great facilitator that works with us to conduct those classes in Spanish, and we always have a great turnout. So if you want more information on that, you can visit us online or call the office and ask for Tanya. But that class is right now scheduled to start Monday, March 16th.
And, you know, this show, while entertaining, clearly, the whole point of it is to give information. If you can't use it, to pass it on. So I would ask all of our listeners and viewers, if you know somebody that needs parenting classes, and you don't have to, you know, everybody needs parenting classes, right? You could always be a better parent, right? So if you know of anybody that might be interested, please pass along that information, because we want to make sure you and I go out and about in the community, and we talk to parent groups and, you know, focus groups and, you know, businesses and whatever, and the common theme is after-school programs and parenting. So if you know of anybody, this is a free offering in our community. We need to take advantage of it.
Yep.
All right, let me pause real quick for station ID, and then we'll jump to our guests. We're right on time. I want to remind everybody you're watching or listening to Community Connections with Children's Services Council on Legendary 1400 AM, or you're watching us live. Well, not live, but we're broadcasting live. You're watching us on I'll get it straight. WLX TV Education Channel, Comcast 13 in Fort Pierce, Comcast Channel 19 in Port St. Lucie, Hometown Cable Channel 19, AT&T Uverse Cable Channel 99, Lightstream Cable at St. James, Channel 65. Thank you for tuning in. You want to introduce our guest?
Sure. We are excited today. We've been trying to get them on the show for a while now, I feel like.
They're popular.
They are popular. So we talk really frequently, actually, on the show about 211 and about how people can access information by calling the 211 helpline. It's on our list of things to try to talk about every week. So I feel like people hopefully know what 211 is. But we've got two lovely ladies here today to talk to us about sort of a special branch of 211. So I know you decided who's going first, so I heard it's you, Jenny.
Yeah, I don't know because the microphone's not near her.
She's not committed.
Okay, yeah.
There, you're good. So Jenny, tell us about Help Me Grow. And kind of how it started and how it got here and what our listeners need to know about it.
Okay, so you guys are familiar that 211 is a call center. So Help Me Grow has a centralized telephone contact. So pretty much Help Me Grow started in 1998 in Connecticut by Dr. Dworkin, he was a pediatrician, and he had a vision of a system of connecting at-risk children to services to resources and services in the area. And then in 2005, it got a replication site started in Orange County. I see how that works.
We told you that was going to happen.
I was like, okay. And then in 2008, and between 2008 and 2010, it became a national service. And 5 more states nationally replicated the vision that Dr. Dworkin had. Between 2010 and 2013, Help Me Grow started having a national center, and then it replicated. 10 more states started replicating that system, and that's where Florida came in 2012. We became an affiliate with Help Me Grow. We started a pilot in Miami and Hillsborough. And currently we have 23 states nationally that are replicating the Help Me Grow system. And the state of Florida has 7 affiliates providing services in 22 counties currently, and we're hoping that we're going to go statewide in 2016. So pretty simple. In simple terms, it's just saying Help Me Grow is a system that is just providing services to at-risk families and their children that if they have or they believe that they have some concern that their child may have a developmental delay or some behavioral issues, what we're doing is we're connecting them with resources in the community. We're currently serving Indian River, St. Lucie, Martin County, and Okeechobee. So that's what we do. And it's through 4 components that Karen will be able to discuss.
That's interesting. I know, I think from conversations that we've had with other children's services councils, the Children's Trust, which is actually the Children's Services Council of Miami, was one of the founding partners to get it down in Miami, to get it started down there.
That's
so that's
right.
Really cool.
And I mean, the whole concept, and I think you're going to go through all the components, but just it sounds a lot like the whole reason why we're on the air
Right.
for an hour a week is to connect people to resources. So I'm excited.
Absolutely, and it's a great segue into what Help Me Grow is all about. Help Me Grow does have 4 core components, and the first component is child healthcare provider outreach, and really, trying to get our message to these physicians and offices, because they have, just a real universal access to children, and they're in a unique position to identify children who are at risk and then have developmental delays, and try to get those screenings done, those evaluations, and then get those families connected to the resources that are out in our community. So that's one of the components. The second component is community outreach. Talking to agencies, attending meetings, going to health fairs, getting our message out into the community about what Help Me Grow is, this initiative of, connecting families and children to services. And that's why we're so excited to be on the radio show today with you, because we know that's what you do as well. So Jenny and I have a big job. We're doing all of these different things, getting out into the community. The third component is our centralized telephone access point, which is the 211 helpline, a national accredited helpline. We have over 117,000 calls came in last year to the 211 helpline. So that's a lot of calls to be taking. And we also have a database that had almost 70,000 hits on the database last year. So we take a lot of calls, we talk to a lot of people, and this is also Palm Beach County as well. So it is the 5 counties. We are focusing here on the Treasure Coast. So that's the connection to 211 and Help Me Grow, is that centralized telephone access point was already in place, so it just made sense. And when the Help Me Grow model was developed on the national level, it was also designated to use that 211 national helpline number. It's an easy number to remember. We have these great little brochures that we're using as some of our marketing material with 211 on that, to give to mom and dad to say, it can't be simpler than just calling 211 and getting connected. Our fourth core component is database collection and finding out, information on how the callers heard about our service, the caller demographics, who we're serving, who's calling the number, facts about the person in need, information on what assistance is being needed, of course, and then records of action taken to assist that caller. Did we do a good job? How we record this information. And then for me, and Jenny and I have both talked about this, is, doing the outcome of the connection. Did the mom call the service that she was given? Did they follow up? We're going to be doing a lot of that with them, some callback, and when they do call 211, they're going to be talking to one of our Help Me Grow specialists, a trained specialist, who can, actually talk to mom and dad, maybe help them figure out what's going on with their child. If they would like to do an ASQ3, which is an ages and stages developmental screening, we can assist them and do that right over the phone with them if they want to. Help Me Grow is not really a direct service. It's rather trying to connect what the services that are already provided. But if mom or dad feel like that's something that they would like to do right then and there on the phone, our specialists are trained to do that when they call in, which is a pretty nice feature too. So, they want to do a lot of follow-up, making sure that these connections are being made. I think that part of, what we heard in Orlando at one of our state conferences was that, we know that there are still a lot of families and children that are falling through the cracks. So it's a great program. We're excited to be here on the Treasure Coast doing this outreach, and thank you for this opportunity to be on the radio and on television to talk about Help Me Grow. Yeah.
So it sounds like, all the 4 components, you really, and I was kind of joking when I said that's kind of what the point of our show is to connect people, but that's what you're doing, right? You're connecting not only parents but the providers and the doctors, so that everybody knows what's out there and they can make sure that the child gets into the right service at the right time. That's right.
Yes, and the Help Me Grow service is for children 0 to 8 years old. So, let me scoot up. 0 to 8.
That's okay, but that's an important distinction. 0 to 8
Yeah,
is going to kind of be the focus.
Yeah, 0 to 8.
So what would be, you mentioned, for families that maybe have children, that have some issues, or I think you said at risk, but what would be a typical phone call, or, if my child does bad on a test, you don't want me calling Help Me Grow, but what is the typical call?
It could be they're babbling, they're not talking yet, they went to the doctors and now they have to wait for the next checkup. Well, in between that wait, they could call 211.
Okay.
And, the specialist could ask or offer the ages and stages questionnaire, and do it right over the phone, or we can mail it to them. And that way, and it's all by points. So when it's determined, the specialist will determine the points, and then she could refer out to the proper resource or agency that the parent needs to
So, we've been encouraging a lot of listeners, really, since we started the show, to call 211. We always say, everybody knows call 411 to get the number for the pizza place down the street, 911 for emergency, but
Yeah.
211 if you want to know if there's help, information, and referral
Yes.
services. So if
Yes.
they call and say, I'm calling because I have an issue with my 7-year-old,
Yeah.
they might get referred,
To the-
not a different number, right then
No,
and there,
right
get
there.
referred to Help Me
to
Grow.
the Help Me Grow specialist, who will then take the call.
That's outstanding.
Um,
Specialized
Specializing
information.
only with the. Yep.
I really
So,
like it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Oh,
to interrupt you. But one of the things that I saw in the marketing materials was that you guys are saying hope when you need it most.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a good point. You call 911 when you need help, or you call 411 when you need information,
Yeah.
but you call 211 when you need hope.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
you need to know that there are programs that are out there that are going to help you. And I think sometimes we talk about all the time, the hardest thing to do is to make that first phone call.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And-
it's nice to know that there's going to be someone that's specializing in what our families are looking for.
And the way I see it is we're advocates for those families. We're linking them, and we don't do direct services. What we're trying to do is making sure, doing the follow-up, that linkage was made and that there was a follow-up with that. And that's pretty much what we do. We're giving information, we're providing resources, materials, some parenting tips if needed through the mail to those families and
That's
parents.
awesome.
And a lot of times it's just not the concern of their behavior. It could be financial assistance, it could be domestic violence, it could be other things that are rooted, and then the child's developmental delay or behavior is a concern. So since 211 has, like Karen said, our database, we could just look up the resource
Connect them
and
right
connect
there.
them right there, one number right away.
awesome.
So it's not so overwhelming for families going through so much
Right.
to call this number and this number and this number. It could be a bit overwhelming when you're going through a lot. So
And that's really good. I like the idea of the follow-up on your end to make sure that they connected, because I know we get a lot of phone calls from people that want service, and they're like, well, so-and-so told me to call there, but when I called there, they referred me somewhere else, and they were just getting
Yeah,
frustrated. And so, you got to take the time and help them navigate, and more importantly, make sure they get connected. That's huge.
yeah, and we don't want to replicate, like the wheel.
Right.
We just
Right.
want to make sure that the
It's
linkage
being
is
used.
that it's being used, and as a community, we're working together to make sure those connections are made.
That's
pretty
That's
awesome.
cool.
outstanding.
It
Yeah.
is. It's
So
a
we're
great
excited.
program.
Yeah.
It's a great program. It's sponsored by the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council and the Florida Department of Education Office of Early Learning. So also the Children's Movement of Florida is very much on board, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. A lot of good people behind this initiative, and we know that the governor is also behind it. There's about a $4 million line budget item that will be hopefully voted on and approved also too in this next session. So
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming. I know we said that we talk about 211 pretty frequently, but I think we'll continue to do so.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and,
it's not a new number.
right.
Not
Right,
a
so
number,
it's
easy
great.
number to remember.
Yeah.
You're going to call anyway, folks. But if you bring up your children 0 to 8, you're going to talk to these fine folks, or fine folks that you work with.
And just before we switch to our next guest, if people are interested in maybe having you guys come and talk
yeah,
to
yeah.
their employees or to their civic groups or things like that, is that something that you can do?
Yes.
What's
yes.
the best number for them to get in touch with you guys?
Probably you can call our 772.
Okay. Not 211?
Well, if you want to talk to us.
211, they'll just send us an email. Be like, hey, call these.
772 217 0386.
Okay,
Or
great.
772-217-0408. Those are two different numbers, just in case.
Okay, awesome.
I was just thinking.
And we would love the opportunity to do that.
And
to be able
again,
to come out.
yeah, and again, we cover the Treasure Coast, so, and I speak Spanish, so,
Oh, great.
so bilingual.
We need to make sure, and hopefully they're listening, but if they're not, we'll contact the Early Learning Coalitions, and they should come and present to all the Early Learning
To the
Coalition
providers.
providers.
Yeah.
That would
Great
be
idea.
Because they have all the
fantastic.
children, 0 to 8.
That would be
Yeah.
fantastic. We would love that opportunity. Yeah.
Awesome.
We know somebody there. We can make that happen.
All right.
Oh, there you go.
Fantastic.
Thank you guys so
Thank you so
much.
Thank
much
you.
for
Thank
this
you very
Thank you.
much. It was a pleasure.
It's an easy number to remember.
I tell people to call 211 all the time.
I don't know my son's cell number, but I got 211 memorized. All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Let me pause real quick for station ID as we transition. I want to remind everybody you're listening to and/or watching Community Connections with Children's Services Council on legendary 1400 AM WIRA, or you're watching us on WLX TV Education Channel. For your Comcast viewers, Channel 13 in Fort Pierce and Channel 19 in Port St. Lucie, Hometown Cable, Channel 19, AT&T UVerse, Channel 99, and Lightstream Cable at St. James, Channel 65. Thanks for tuning in.
You did a good job.
I did. I just read it, though. Didn't try to get
That's
cute
okay.
with it.
That's okay. So we said earlier today that we were going to have two awesome guests, and we are happy to have our next guest in the studio with us now. About a month ago, we talked about this earlier today. We had Deb Pizzamenti and now I
Michael
can't-
Taylor.
Oh, thank you. With us
I think that was his name.
from it wasn't. It was Campbell.
Robert?
Robert Campbell.
Robert Campbell.
Robert
See,
Campbell.
look at that.
Why did
Our
I come up
camera
with
guy
Michael
is in
Taylor?
the know. I don't know.
Sorry,
But
whoever you are, Michael Taylor.
they were with us from Suncoast Mental Health, and we talked about how we needed to keep mental health at the top of conversation. And so this is our promise to us following through on that promise. And we're really excited. The topic that we're actually going to focus on today is bullying, which is something that is really important to our kids, really important to our families, has been in the news a lot recently. As early as this morning, I heard some information about bullying. So we have Mickey Hoffmeyer here.
Right.
Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. From Suncoast Mental Health, who's going to talk to us about some of the risk factors with bullying and the impact that it's having on our kids. And I know from some conversation that we had before the show started, we talked about kind of the place that all of this manifests is in school. So I think one of the things that our parents would ask is, how are you guys seeing it? How are you seeing it, kind of the after effects of it? Because I'm sure that by the time you guys get called, it's sort of the what has happened
Right.
kind of thing. So what are you guys seeing as it relates to bullying?
Well, I think first of all, there's types of bullying. When we were growing up, of course, we had the physical, the verbal bullying, and maybe some of the covert and the hidden bullying. One of the big problems right now is the cyberbullying with the emails, the mobile phones, the social media. That's having really a terrible impact on it, and it's far-reaching. Somebody who's doing the bullying might gravitate to that because the consequences aren't immediate. There's no immediate feedback, but it reaches a wide audience very quickly, which is, of course, right up their alley, which is what they want to do.
Right.
The impact it has on a child, of course, is
Sorry. You have to sit far away and lean close.
the impact on the child who is being bullied can be devastating. Of course, lower grades, maybe disliking school, not wanting to be in school. The increased, as they grow older, increased risks of substance abuse, lower self-esteem, increased depression, anxiety, and then the worst case scenario, suicide, of course.
And sadly, that's often when we hear about it, when it
Right.
when it makes the news,
Right.
when people are having that conversation. I mentioned that I heard on the news this morning, there was a story on the Today Show this morning about Curt Schilling, who is a Major League Baseball player who sort of outed some bullies that were attacking his daughter. And it got, I think, so big, at least from what I heard, that one of the kids got suspended from school and one of them lost his job. So, that might be an extreme case of what parents can do, but what are some tips that you guys would give to parents who have identified maybe the lower grades, the not liking school? How can they help their child that's being bullied?
Right, I think we look at the dynamic. Of course, we have the bullier and the target, but then a lot of times there's this associate who may help the bullier, and then maybe a bystander who supports it in a way of giving the bullier a smile or some words of way to go, and that was good. That's all part of it. And then we have the defender, maybe another child who tries to defend the person being bullied, and then of course the adults, the teachers, the parents, the school staff. All these people, just like Curt Schilling, really need to model and step up. And I praise Curt Schilling for doing that. That's what needs to be done. Who's the adult in the room? That's the question. The
Right.
kids are, a lot of times the children are still learning and practicing social skills, and they may not have the tools necessary to cope and handle with the bullying. So they're going to need help, and that's where us as adults need to step in.
And you know, you bring up a good point because, you know, if your child's getting bullied, you know, depending on the relationship you have with the child and the age, they might not come to you right away and say, look, I'm getting bullied. You know, and with social media, I always tell parents, and you've heard me say this before, is unless your child is paying for their cell phone outright, it's your cell phone. So randomly check it to see what's on
Yes.
there. If they have a Facebook page, be friends with them on Facebook. And if they, and I've had parents who's, you know, they've gotten an argument and their child has defriended them on Facebook, you know, then that Facebook account gets shut down, right? I mean, because I've had issues where that's happened with somebody I know, and Facebook is good because if Ashley's giving me a hard time on Facebook, I can go in and say, Ashley's no longer allowed on my Facebook page, and you can't find me on Facebook anymore.
Did you do that?
I have done that. But I think it's important that the parents, you know, don't just wait for it to come to them.
Right.
They got to be vigilant, whether it be, you know, daily conversations with your child and or just quite frankly checking that stuff.
And I think one of the other things that you said was that we have to remember that these at least at some of our younger ages, these kids don't have the skills to cope with
Right.
some of these things. They're not equipped to handle that kind of, you know, torment every day. So it's hard, I think, to kind of figure out where the happy medium is. You know, how much do we want to scare them
Yeah.
about what could happen when they go to school?
Well,
and-
I think we're just asking and hoping that the parent can be a parent. That's the title of that. It's not friend so much as being a parent. And that may require you taking something away, watching what they're using on their cell phone, on their computers. And it's not by any means out of line. It's
Right.
really caring and loving for your child.
They may not react that way.
They
Just
might
telling you
not.
from personal experience.
As a matter of fact, they probably don't. We're
But-
just mean.
So you talked about kind of what parents can look for if their child's like grades start to drop or they really don't want to go to school, or you kind of see them, you know, lower self-esteem. But as a parent, you know, if you know your child is being bullied, you know, like in the Kurt Schilling's case, though it's in national news, you know, he stepped up and let everybody know. But is that always the best case to, you know, you as a parent, your child is getting bullied at school. Do you go to the school and talk to the school? Do you talk to the parents of the bullier? I mean, there probably isn't a clear cut.
There isn't really a clear. You have to understand your child, first of all. I'm sure in Kurt Schilling's case, maybe he processed this with his child, and it was agreed that he could confront who these people are. Maybe another person's child won't like that. So there's different avenues. You have to know your child, but certainly the school should know if it's happening at school. But most of the time, going back, these things, especially with the cyberbullying, happen out of school.
Yeah.
While at home, it can happen at any time, any place. So, and worst of all with the cyberbullying is it can go on long after the bullying ceased. You just pull up an image, you know, an unflattering image of somebody, and there it is from 15 years ago.
Right.
It's sad, but that's the power of it. But get in touch with the school. As far as confronting the parent of the bullier, we don't know. That can be a little risky.
Yeah.
We don't know. But depending on what level and what degree happened, police involvement may be necessary. So it's really going to depend on a case-to-case basis. But if it's in school, definitely the school should know.
Now, if we're talking about situations where it gets to the point that you guys get involved, that, you know, mental health counselors get involved, that are trying to maybe kind of help the child get through some of the damage that has been done, what are things that parents can reinforce then? You know, kind of once maybe we've seen the lowering grades, we've seen that they don't like to go to school, we've seen their self-esteem start to decline. How can we build that child back up?
Okay, what we provide therapy services, and in the cases where a child may be depressed or feeling anxious, anxiety, possible medication. but that would be something that the doctor and the parent and the child talk about. But providing the skills through therapy where the parent would be a part of the treatment plan, developing the skills so they can also be implemented at home with the parents on board, what we are working with the child on. And it would vary, especially the self-esteem. It's critical because it's going to have a far-reaching effect after and while the child grows up. So it's implementing certain social skills and plan of action to take to eliminate or hopefully eliminate, stop the bullying.
You know, we have, you know, this topic has come up before with other guests, and you know, when you talk to like parents my age or maybe a little bit older, just throwing that, they'll be like, oh well, you know, we had bullies when I grew up and I turned out fine.
Right.
But you know, in our generation, kind of half of yours possibly, because you're younger. But you know, when you got off the school bus and you went home, the bullying stopped because you were at a safe place.
And
but
you weren't
now
getting text messages.
But now it doesn't.
Yeah.
But also, you know, if you were bullied in high school, I guarantee you, everybody that was bullied can like picture that person instantly, knows exactly what happened, and can recall it just like that. Well, you know, we may not have gotten any help with it, but not to say that we shouldn't have,
Right.
you know, some professional help, because that has a long-lasting impact. I had the privilege to facilitate that Breaking the Chain, and they talked about that. They said, you know, everybody kind of like close your eyes and imagine if you were bullied. Can you picture that bully like right then and there, and what happened and how it affects you?
And everyone can.
Yeah, everybody can, and it does have a long-lasting impact. Now magnify that times 10, because nowadays it can happen 24 hours.
Right.
It's no, you know, joke. You know, it's not a thing to take lightly anymore.
Well, and I think too, I don't know, I feel like maybe this is different now than it was in the past. I won't say how long ago. But I feel like now there's sort of a group effort in bullying. You mentioned associates, that there's often associates. I feel like, you know, when I was in school, there might have been one guy that was kind of, you know, abrasive or rude or the bully. But now it's almost like groups of people that are attacking. You know, it's all behind the movie Mean Girls. There's like a group of people who are kind of facilitating the negativity, and it's not just one person anymore. And even when it is, if they share something on social media, they get that backing, they get that following, those people that are like, yeah, I agree with you.
Right, and that's the power of the cyberbullying. That's really taken it. And you're right, bullying unfortunately has been around for a long time. I think probably ever since we have had schools.
Yeah, you're right.
So, but it's just increased with the cyberbullying. And yes, we're seeing more of group action, but with the social media, this can be extended. And what I think it's the anonymity that can come with it. Like I said, there's no immediate feedback from the person being bullied or the defender, and there's no immediate consequence. And you can throw a unflattering picture on social media, and there you go. Who sent this? Maybe, you know, it's hard to find out. We'll start digging around who sent this.
Right.
But that's the effect that it has.
Even legally, I think there's not a lot that has been kind of set in stone. You know, these cyberbullying is moving faster than the laws to prevent it are, and there's not a lot, you know, written about it.
And you're right. And I don't know if, and I certainly wouldn't be against it. It'd be a step in the right direction, but trying to legislate the behavior or any type of behavior. We have laws against murdering and stealing. It doesn't seem to stop anybody. I mean, so, but I don't know if legislating it could help. I'm sure it's necessary, but it really begins at home, which you were talking in Kurt Schilling's case, being the parent.
That's true. Let me pause real quick for station ID. I want to make sure we stay on our every 15 minutes. I want to remind everybody you're listening to Community Connections with Children's Services Council on legendary 1400 AM WIRA, and or you're watching us on WLX TV, the education channel, Comcast viewers, channel 13 in Fort Pierce, channel 19 in Port St. Lucie, Hometown Cable, channel 19, AT&T UVerse, channel 99, and Lightstream Cable at St. James, channel 65.
Good job.
I got the thumbs up.
Oh.
Feeling pretty good.
We are talking to Mickey Hoffmeyer from Suncoast Mental Health Center about bullying and the impact that it is having on our kids. And I think, we've talked a lot about the types and what we're seeing and things like that. But when parents call you guys for help, what are kind of the steps that they can expect to encounter? What are the kind of questions that they're going to have to answer?
Well, first, the whole process would be the call, and we would first have an intake, okay, and then the intake person would get the information what's really going on, maybe some past history. Is there any family history of depression, anxiety? It's all important, and then probably digging in as to why you're here, and that's where the parent can fill in as the child's being bullied and sensing some depression, anxiety, falling grades, not wanting to go to school, disconnected from things that were interesting in the past. All these little signs that the parent is picking up is telling the parent that there's something definitely wrong here, and that'll be relayed to the intake therapist, and we'll set up a treatment plan according to those things that were discussed.
I'm checking to see if we got any texts, and somebody was asking about the number and where to call, which you just kind of addressed.
I did, but we didn't give the number. What's the number to call Suncoast?
Suncoast, it's I don't even have it offhand. I'm so used to having it on my cell phone.
See how we get used to that?
It is bad. I don't want to give the wrong one. I really don't have it off the top of my head.
You want me to find it?
Oh, no, I know that I have it. Or we can absolutely share it on Facebook. I know we did tag the Suncoast page on Facebook this morning. So for anyone who follows us on Facebook, you can link right to it there. And I know the information is there. And you guys also have a lot of information on your website about tips for parents, how to access information, things like that. So I know that that's a place that parents could get resources as well.
Exactly. It'd be Suncoast Mental Health, all one word, .org. And of course, our phone number and addresses. We're in 4 counties. We're in Okeechobee, Indian River, St. Lucie, and Martin. We have Austin serve all 4 of those counties.
All right, so I have one more question. I don't know.
I got the number.
Oh,
sorry.
oh.
I didn't want y'all to think I wasn't checking my text. I was getting the number.
You're busy
Thank
over
you.
there.
772-489-4726. Again, it's 489-4726, and that's for the Suncoast Mental Health Facility. That's the Fort Pierce location.
Okay, and you were just saying that you guys are in 4 counties.
Right.
So that's a lot of kids that you're serving, a lot of families that you're seeing.
Yes, and again, it's not just to St. Lucie County, but bullying we have it in all counties and statewide, nationwide, unfortunately. So it's a big issue.
So we've talked about bullying, and we're continuing to talk about bullying. Can we started off talking about like what the parents can look for, but let's say, the child's young and he hasn't been bullied yet. I know that sounds weird, but isn't going through that. What can a parent do? Like, what kind of family atmosphere, or what can they do on a daily or weekly basis to make sure that they maintain communication and/or prevent or on top of cyberbullying? I know that's a lot to throw out there. On 10 minutes left on a radio show, but I think it's important.
Well, I think that it's really establishing a routine, educating the child before it might happen, so the child may know what to do and recognize it. The child, what am I looking for? And that's where the parent could explain to them, look for these types of things. Of course, the physical, the verbal bullying, the hidden things, the silly smirks that a child might give.
Sadly, I feel like there's a lot of things that we would see like out in everyday life that could act as sort of teachable moments in that regard, like things on TV or conversations that people might have that kind of fall into those things.
And that's a really good point, and a parent can recognize those. That would be the teaching moment, and then you could lay down, if you recognize these things and it's happening to you, here's what we can do, and lay out a plan. And it kind of be preemptive before instead of reactive. Proactive instead of reactive is always better.
And we have to make sure as adults, we're talking about bullying with children, but we have to make sure as adults that we're not doing bullying behavior. It may not be, as highlighted because it's not in a classroom and we're not kids, but, I've seen adults that are kind of in meetings or whatever, kind of acting, some of what you brought up as a bully, they've done.
I had this conversation with some people in a class that I took last semester was digital law and ethics, and a lot of what we talked about was cyberbullying, and that there weren't really, there's not legislation around it yet. And one of the things that I kept going back to was political ads. They're so mean to each other in political ads, and that, the kinds of things that they say about the other candidates or whatever, to me, as a young child, I feel like a young child looking at that would be like, oh, well, it's okay because they're doing it and they're important.
On TV between my favorite show. Yeah.
And it was so prevalent this past election year.
Right.
The really negative kind of.
That's a really, really good point, because they'll hear, if you have the news on as a parent watching and your child's in a room, they're hearing. They may not be looking at the screen, but they're hearing these things and these voices and these comments coming out, and they are very negative and downright nasty. And a lot of them are truths or half-truths.
Yeah.
So the child hears this and, well, adults doing it.
Right.
What's wrong with that? Exactly. It sends the message that it's okay, but it's not. And
That could be the legislation we pass.
no more dirty political ads.
the Kurt Schilling, he stood up. He modeled the behavior that we hope the adults would do, and that was good for him.
Well, and that being said, too, especially for a child who, maybe because of bullying is suffering from low self-esteem, how impactful for their parent to get out there in front of it and stand up for them. That's a huge boost for somebody who's kind of already suffering maybe from that lower self-esteem. Like, wow, he got out there and he stood up for me, and look what he did. So I think that was that's a big deal. And even if it's not your dad, even if he's not a Major League Baseball player, whoever gets out there as the defender, that's an important role.
It really is, and it's the parent is the greatest advocate for their own child and maybe another child, a close family friend or another family member. But a lot of times the parents might say that the children don't respect us. Well, that's a sure way to gain respect. Stand up for them, because they may not know how. They may not have that skill, or they're still practicing it. So show them how it's done in an adult manner. This is how you would handle it.
Right. It's kind of like what you said. The adult needs to be the adult, right? And the parent needs to be the parent. And I think it's important, too, that, we're talking about bullying and all that, but, you had mentioned it before. Parents, you're not supposed to be your child's best friend. Right. You're not supposed to be their confidant. You're supposed to be their parent. And sometimes that puts you in situations where maybe there's friction or conflict, but your responsibility is to be their parent, not their best friend.
Right.
And I'm going to give us a plug here, but a lot of what we're talking about is addressed in some of the parenting classes that we have taught, that Castle has taught, that the Parent Academy has taught. And they, we talk a lot about parenting as when you're in difficult situations, you go back to the way that you were parented. And maybe you didn't have a great role model that did stick up for you or that taught you the ways to deal with those kinds of things. But there are places out there where someone can come in to kind of help that and to give you the tools that you need to help your child. And so I hope that if anyone is listening and thinking, maybe they're identifying some of these things. There's lower grades. There's, their child doesn't want to go to school. Maybe they have thought before that they could be a victim of bullying, but you don't quite know how to take that next step and address it. There are agencies that are here that can help, like Suncoast or, like any of our parenting classes. Those are the things that they focus on parenting, is how to have good communication and how to deal with issues and things like that. And, there is help out there. So it's not something that you really have to venture out and do on your own.
And when it comes to issues like this, like, bullying and feelings and emotions and mental health, for whatever reason, sometimes as a society, we're a little hesitant to call or to ask for help. But if your child had the flu,
right,
you'd call the doctor, right? I mean, if your child broke his arm, well, if your child is having issues and suffering, you take him to get him help.
Right.
So, there's no shame in that. And by hopefully everybody understands that there are resources such as Suncoast to call, and they're a great organization. As you said, they're multiple county. We're partial to St. Lucie here, but it is multiple county. But it all just starts with a phone call. And even if you call and it's a quick assessment, and maybe there's some tips that you get, but everything seems to be fine, there's no harm in calling and getting that reassurance, if you will.
And an extremely valuable service along with the therapy and the medication management that Suncoast provides is a targeted case manager who could be assigned to the child, who could also be an advocate for this child with the school and helping the parent advocate and find different programs that are also available throughout the community.
That's a great point, and I think that is something actually that Deb and Robert addressed the last time they were on, is that you guys do have targeted case management, which not everyone...
Not everybody does, and they're extremely helpful, and it's really a crucial piece to everything, linking everything, the glue. They could almost be that glue that keeps
Well, it
everything
helps
together.
navigate what we hear all the time. Oh, we didn't know that was out there because of whatever. It helps navigate and connect, make all those connections.
And especially with school, too. That's kind of something scary for people to go into a meeting with a guidance counselor and a teacher and a principal.
And they're very good at that. That's specifically what they know. A lot of the resources out there that, frankly, a lot of people just don't know. But they're versed in these organizations and work very well and closely with the schools.
Awesome.
All right, so we've given the number out a couple times, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we should get it out one more time. Suncoast Mental Health. Again, the number is 772-489-4726. Throughout the entire Treasure Coast, located in St. Lucie, just north of the tracks in Fort Pierce on the east side. I can't remember
Where-
what plaza that is. Kaiser?
No,
It's
Virginia
right where-
College
yes,
is in
right
there.
Virginia College, sorry.
Colleges.
Virginia College, right in there. But please, it all starts with a simple phone call. And if not, you can talk to your the school about it, the guidance counselor. And I know that you guys work closely with the schools,
Yes.
And they may eventually connect you with them. But again, the number 489-4726. So we've had Suncoast on. I wonder what the next topic's going to be. They're great guests.
I know what it is, but I can't think of it right offhand. Deb has been awesome about
Deb is.
scheduling different counselors to address different topics with us. And again, the reason that we did this is because we've talked a lot. I feel like the
recurring themes.
the shows where we talk about mental health issues are the ones that always kind of get the most attention. And we always say that the stigma is kind of the negative, I think, identifier that people always pull out when it comes to mental health issues, but it's not something that we should be afraid to talk about.
Exactly.
And in order for us to keep the conversation happening, we're going to keep bringing these issues back up.
The more we talk about it, the more it becomes the norm, right?
Right.
We're getting better at that, destigmatizing it, but it's still a work in progress. But I think we can get better, and we will, through the education process. And one thing I just want to touch, especially with the child, about I kind of look at the mental health tree, if you will. A lot of with the more serious ones, schizophrenia, bipolar, they seem to me to start with anxiety. That's the root of a lot of things. So if a child's being bullied, of course they'll feel anxious and have anxiety and depression, which if it's not addressed, then it fuels and feeds and grows into the more serious mental health issues, substance abuse, and of course, unfortunately, suicide. So if we can get a hold of it and grab it right away,
Like
the
prevention treatment.
Right.
Almost.
Yes.
Let's nip it at the bud and get in there and build the skills. And I will tell you, kind of debating what I was going to say this, but I've used Suncoast with my family before, and they're a great organization. The case managers are awesome, the counselors and the therapists. But again, it doesn't hurt to make sure, because we're talking about serious issues here today, and it can manifest in a big bad way, and none of us want to read the paper or pick up a story to learn about a child that committed suicide because they were being bullied.
Right.
And while we're kind of joking and making light of some of these topics, it's a very serious issue, and it's preventable.
Right.
And it's we got to get through that stigma and make these phone calls. And if you know of somebody that could benefit, even just from a simple conversation, to one, say maybe everything's okay, but maybe they need a case manager, or just a little bit of strategies to help build more family communication, if you will. It's very simple, and all you got to do is call 489-4726.
Good job.
I think it's important that people know.
I know, you're right.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Now,
Thank you.
this is we got like 30 seconds left. Anybody listening you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, I'm sure our coworkers. Hopefully, I'm sure they are. So
You may
I
be
shout
next,
out to
coworkers.
them.
I'm sure Deb has already identified them, so we'll see who's next. I believe I can't remember now who.
When
it
you
was.
go back, tell them how horrible it was and how nerve-wracking it was. Just kidding.
Don't do that; they'll never come. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be sure that we continue to share information about Suncoast and their programs and keeping mental health issues kind of top of mind.
Well, we've come to the end of the show. We want to thank you for tuning in. This is a weekly show, so good chance we're going to be back next Tuesday from 11 to noon on legendary 1400 AM WIRA. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Check out our Facebook page. Check out our website. But more importantly, remember, it's our children, our community, our future. We're in this together. We'll see you next time.